So I wanted to do more of an explanation of practical rotations that you can do to get your pieces into the ghost row. So these are like things that often come up when you're playing. But one that's pretty easy is this sandwich one, where if you have column 2 and 4 filled up to the top, but you don't have anything in the ghost row, it's very easy to get your next piece into the ghost row. The only thing you have to watch out for is that you have to do the rotation very quickly as soon as the piece comes in. So you have to get the piece upside down, so rotate twice in the same direction, and then when you rotate a third time, the piece will just pop up and go into the ghost row, and you can slide it around in either direction if it's free. So the only hard thing here is, again, you have to rotate the piece twice very quickly. But as soon as you do that, then when you do the third rotation, it'll just pop over. Now, if you want to put the piece all the way into the column vertically, then you have to do 4 rotations in the same direction. Or you can also do 2 in one direction and 2 opposite, whichever is easier for you, but for me it's easier to get the rhythm if I just do 4 presses of the same direction. And you can only put the piece vertically into the ghost row right side up. You can't put it upside down into the ghost row. So if I put that purple yellow into the ghost row standing up, the purple's going to be on the bottom and then the yellow's going to disappear. And that's the only way I can put it. So the purple's on the bottom and then the yellow disappears. And if you try to put it the other way, it just won't rotate. So, but, and then another thing to know is that, so if you want to jump over this column, like I'm doing here, and then you want to put the piece upside down, the way you usually want to do it to be safe is to do 4 rotations to make the piece vertical like this. And then if you want it upside down, once it's all the way in the column, then you rotate twice again to fix it. So if I wanted the yellow on the bottom, I would rotate it all the way around to be straight up. Then I would do 2 more rotations once it's in the column to fix the orientation. If you don't do it that way, like if you do 3 rotations and then try to flip it upside down, a lot of times it'll get caught and it won't rotate or it'll get stuck, and then you won't get the piece to where you want it to go. So to be safe, you should rotate the piece all the way to right up, so do 4 rotations in the same direction, or 2 one way and 2 back, and then get the piece all the way in the column and then rotate it twice. But there are some situations where you can do 3 rotations and then rotate back. But if you don't know what those are, it's safer to just do all 4 and then place it and then fix it when it's in the column. So now this situation is very similar. It's almost the same as this sandwich situation, but it's like even easier because you don't have to like the timing isn't strict. So you can just let the piece fall down and then you rotate it to where it's upside down. And then when you do the third rotation, it'll pop up into the ghost row and you can slide it around however you want. And again, if you want to place it vertically in the ghost row, the only way you can do that is by standing it straight up. So just to make it clear, with this red purple coming next, if I wanted to place it vertically in the ghost row, the purple is going to be in the bottom and the red will disappear, and that's the only orientation that works. Otherwise it just won't rotate. So here's another situation. This one's also easy, but it pretty much follows the same principles. The key thing to remember is that you want the piece to be upside down over the highest column, and then you do 1 more rotation and it'll flip up into the ghost row. Now there's a catch because you kind of want to rotate away from where you're putting it so it doesn't kick off the wall. So if I want to put it on the left side, I should rotate to the right so it doesn't kick off the wall. But you can actually still do it even if it kicks off the wall in this situation. It's just a little bit harder or a little bit more prone to missed drops or not making it. But you do 2 rotations, you get the piece upside down, and then when you do the 3rd rotation, it'll lift up into the ghost row. And if you want to get it all the way up there, then you do the 4th rotation to get it vertical. So here, there's the 3rd rotation to kick up into the ghost row, and there's the 4th rotation to get it all the way up. And then I can do that on the other side as well. And again, it's easier if I rotate away so it doesn't kick off the column, but you can still do it rotating into the column and having it kick off. So in this case, either way will work. Now here's a slightly harder example, but again, it follows the same principle of you want the piece to be upside down over the highest column, and then when you do the 3rd rotation, it'll lift up and you can get it into the ghost row. But here it won't automatically get there, so as you do the 3rd rotation, you have to also shift the piece over at the same time, and then it'll lift up and you can get it caught in the ghost row, and then you can move it sideways. And then again, if you want to get it all the way into column 6 here, you're going to want to do all 4 rotations to get the piece vertical. And then if I want this purple on the bottom, then once it's all the way in the column, I should do 2 more rotations to get the purple on the bottom. But if you try to do the shortcut where you do 3 rotations and rotate back, it'll probably get stuck. I think in this case it gets stuck. Again, there's some cases where it will work, but I don't think this is one of them. So, and then if you wanted to get it all the way into that vertical in the ghost row, then you do the 4th rotation to stand it up. And again, there's only one orientation that works. And it's the same going to the left as well. You put it upside down over the highest column. Then as you do the 3rd rotation, you also shift it and it'll get caught in the ghost row. And then you do the 4th rotation to get it all the way up there. Now, this is the hardest jump that you can have. So it's still the same concept. You get the piece upside down over the highest column, then you do the 3rd rotation, and as you do the 3rd rotation, you slide the piece over to get it caught in the ghost row, and then you do the 4th rotation to get it all the way up. But because the jump's so large, you have to take advantage of this thing where if you do the rotation immediately before the piece drops at all, then you get more height. So then you can do larger jumps. So you have to do that in this case. So you can't let the piece move down and touch. It has to be like floating above the column like this. So you get it upside down, floating above the column, and then you do the 3rd rotation and shift all the way over as you're doing that. And then you do the 4th rotation if you want to get it all the way up. So this one's hard because that means you have to be really mentally prepared. Like as soon as the piece comes in, you're holding right and rotating twice to get it upside down over the highest column. Then you do the 3rd rotation. And there's one more catch here, is that you want to rotate so that it's like leaning into the column. So here I actually rotate left twice and then right once, so that reaches to the left more, and then like leans into the column, and then gives you more room to catch the column and rotate up. Now, one last thing to note is that you have to be aware of how the piece kicks off the other columns as you rotate it. So again, the concept is you want to put the piece upside down over the highest column you can reach, and then when you do the 3rd rotation, it'll kick into the ghost row. But here, if you rotate to the right, it kicks off that column 4, and then it slides off, and then you can't get it over. So you have to watch out for those kicks, and in this case, you want to rotate to the left so it doesn't kick off the wall, and then you can get it over. So if you rotate left, it'll get over, but if you rotate right, it'll kick off the wall and miss. Now there's some cases where you can use that to your advantage, like in this case, if you rotate right, it'll kick over one to column 2. But that's actually a good thing here, so if you, because again, you want the piece to be upside down over the highest column, but you can do that by rotating to the right twice, because it'll kick off the wall, and then, so if I rotate left, it doesn't kick, but if I rotate to the right again, because you can do it to the left as well, but if you rotate right, it'll just kick into the column, so you don't have to like shift left and rotate. You can just rotate 3 or 4 times, and you don't have to press left. So here I'm not pressing left, I just rotate twice and it kicks to the left, and then I can get it over when I do the third rotation. So you can use the kick off the wall to your advantage. And again, you could do, like I was doing, you could also shift to the left one and rotate twice to the left. That also works. It's just a little bit more precise and a little bit more difficult. So shifting to the right and kicking off the wall makes it easier. And then you can do the same thing mirrored as well. So here, if you rotate to the left, it'll kick into column 4. So you don't have to tap right or press right at all. You just rotate left and let the piece kick over into column 4, and then it'll get over the column when you do the third rotation. And then you can also use this to get into column 6. So here I can rotate left twice, and then it'll be upside down over column 4. And then when I do the third rotation, it'll lift up into the ghost row. So here I'm not pressing right until the third rotation. So at the very start, I'm kicking off the wall to get it upside down over column 4. And then as I do the third rotation, then I press right to get it caught in the ghost row. So that's about all I can think of for like the practical ghost row rotations that come up in a match. But these can be pretty useful because if you're trying to make the really big chains, a lot of times you need to know how to get the pieces into the ghost row or how you can get rid of extra pieces. Oh, and then one last thing to mention is that if you stand a piece up vertically in the ghost row all the way, then so there's a Puyo in row 13, which is the ghost row, which is where the top sun is in the image. But then one Puyo disappears and goes in row 14, which is out of the field. But the way the game's coded or whatever, that Puyo never disappears, but it always stays there. So there's like something that you can't see that blocks row 14. So if you do this once in a round and put a piece vertically in the ghost row, then row 14 gets blocked, and you can never put another piece vertically in that column during the round again because it's blocked. And not only that, depending on where it gets blocked, like in this case, if it gets blocked in column 4, it'll mess with certain rotations, or sometimes like column 5, maybe. It'll mess up certain rotations, and it'll like physically block you from rotating. So even if you execute the rotation correctly, you won't be able, like, it'll get stuck anyway, and the piece won't go. So when you get those row 14, when you get row 14 blocked, it like messes up the rotations you can do, and you can't place another piece vertically in the ghost row under that. So that doesn't really come into play very often. It's very rare for that to be an issue in an actual match, but it comes into play a lot if you do the very long score attack run, the 10 million run, because in that one you can fill up the ghost row. But the run is so long that once you fill it up, then it's like a problem for the entire rest of the run, which can be like 2 hours or whatever. 90 minutes, depending on if you're really good. But it then becomes a problem for the entire rest of the run. So that's why if you see people doing the really long score attack, they try to not fill up row 14 unless they absolutely have to. But in an actual match, it can be really useful when you like just need to throw away pieces so you can draw the color you need. It's very useful to know how to like get a piece vertically into the ghost row to kind of like throw it away or have space for it. And then sometimes you need to know that to like make your chain work because you need one more Puyo in the ghost row. So it's good to know, well, if you stand up vertically, the only color you can get is the bottom one. But that's most of the practical ghost row stuff that you probably want to know while playing.